Shalom. This is Chacham Melech Ben Yaakov of of Karaite Insights with another talk, and I want to continue on the theme of structure, of how I think nations are set up, are meant to be set up, how they should be set up. Specific advice to the United States of America, which is the country I grew up in, the country I'm temporarily living in right now. And this whole idea of this, this very in vogue notion of nationalism versus globalism, and what I believe that the Torah and Yehowah has to say about it, which is clearly nationalism, not globalism. Although there is a form of globalism, but that form of globalism is a world under the reign of Yehowah, not the way that the current liberal globalists see it. So, a couple of things. I can't emphasize enough how important it is to realize that this struggle between, shall we say, nationalism / traditional values versus globalism / liberal or progressive values is really a battle between good and evil is too melodramatic. I hate to use words like that, but it is kind of a battle between between good and evil. But I'll use different words that I've really been trying to emphasize in previous videos, which is it's a battle between chaos and order. It's a battle between supporting and developing the structure with which Yehowah envisions the world should be set up and should run, and between fighting against, rebelling against, destroying, sabotaging, undermining that structure. Okay, I've mentioned it in previous videos, and I'll mention it again. The concept of order and the concept of chaos. Okay, the idea of, let's start with chaos. The idea of chaos is that there are no distinctions. Everything's a blur. Okay, this is literally the if you look in physics, then you will see that that's the definition of chaos. Okay, what's called I always get the two mixed up, even though my background is science. What's called entropy. Okay, or maybe it's enthalpy. I always get the two mixed up, but it doesn't matter. Okay, we'll call it entropy. Okay, so entropy is a measure of it's a measure of chaos. I can't get mixed up. Scratch that. What I'm talking about is that when you have a system that is that has a lack of distinction, that is a system that is defined by chaos. Okay, so the classic example that I've given before would be a glass of lukewarm water. Okay, that has no order. Everything, all of the molecules in there are essentially the same temperature. Okay, they're all moving at essentially the same speed overall. Let's oppose this to a system where there is structure, there is order, which is a glass of warm water with ice cubes in it. Okay, the ice cubes have a structure. They're cold. They have less temperature. The warm water has a structure. It's warmer. Okay, there's distinction. There's structure. Okay, if you look around the world, all you see is structure. You see trees have structure. The sky has structure. Clouds have structure. The animals, the eyeball, I always give that example, has structure. The nose has structure. Everything we see in this world has structure. There are distinctions. When a baby is born, it starts off as undifferentiated cells, and as the baby develops in the mother's womb, those cells differentiate into the heart, into the lungs, into the kidneys, the liver, the head, the eyes, everything. So you're moving from a state of chaos or lack of structure to a state of order where there is structure. And this is what Yehowah does. This requires intelligence, right? This is the idea of intelligent design. The people who support the idea of intelligent design understand that there must be some intelligence behind all the structure we see in the world, in the universe. They don't go as far as pinpointing it to the creator of the universe, to Yehowah, but they say there is some intelligence behind it. Okay, as followers of the Torah, as Israelites, loyal Israelites, then we know that intelligence behind all of this design, all of this structure, is Yehowah. So that's the idea of a structured world. when we support the structure, when we fight for the structure, when we're loyal to the structure, it's not that our lives are boring. Our lives are extremely exciting, right? We can be part of this wonderful structure. We can support it by, I don't know, curing other people, building things, exploring the world, all kinds of wonderful things. But we're always doing it keeping in mind that we are supportive of the structure, that we're loyal to Yehowah, that He is our Father and we are His children. Okay? Now let's oppose this to a world of chaos. A world of chaos is a world where there is no structure, or there's a diminished amount of structure. Distinctions between entities are blurred. Definitions are blurred. Everything comes together in a giant haze. It's like taking a whole bunch of different dog breeds and breeding them all together and just getting a giant mutt. And I have nothing against mutts. All of my dogs back in Israel are mutts, and I love them to death. But the point is that you're losing distinction, you're losing structure, and everything just melds into one giant uniform mush. That's what chaos is. When Yehowah created the world, He took it from chaos. Okay, tohu bohu. Okay. It's usually translated as void and unformed. No structure. There was no day and night. There were no stars, no moon, no sun, no plants, no animals. And using His intelligence, using His will, He built this structure. Okay, whether it was in 7 days, 16 billion years, that's a whole other topic. Two great books on the topic are Gerald Schroeder's Genesis and the Big Bang, and one of my favorite books is something called Biocentrism, by Professor Richard Lanza. At any rate, I'm not going to get into that right now, okay? Chaos was brought into structure. Chaos was brought into order, and that's what we see here. We don't just see a giant blob all around us. We see trees and snow, right? Here's the snow. Hold on a second. Maybe you can't see trees, and we see snow, and we see rain, and we see animals, and we see all the structure in the universe, okay? And that's what Yehowah did, and each time He created something, He said it was good, right? The end of day 3, Yehowah had created such and such, and he called it good, and so was the end of day 3, or so was the end of day 4. So the process of moving from chaos to order is a good process, okay? It's using your will, using your soul, using your desire to create in the world for good things, and taking something that's unformed, like a potter taking clay, analogy often used in the Torah and the Tanakh, and forming it into something that has structure, okay? So everywhere you see structure that is in line with the ultimate will of the Creator, that is by definition good. You are supporting the structure that the Creator has put into place, and He has His reasons for putting it into place. It all is associated with being good and doing good and creating good things within this world, okay? Now, as I mentioned yesterday in the video, as opposed to this, there are two possibilities. One is to create alternate structures, okay? Structures that are not in line with the vision of the Creator. So I don't know, someone gets bored of green trees, so they decide they're gonna, create purple trees because, this world is not great and exciting enough. They need purple trees, okay? Or they need glow-in-the-dark, orange trees. I don't know, maybe there are such things out there. Yehowah's created a lot of glow-in-the-dark, creatures, but I think you understand the point that I'm trying to say, okay? And so you can create these alternate structures, which have structure, but they're not in line with the ultimate will of the Creator. Or the other thing one could do if they want to rebel against Yehowah, rebel against His ways, feel their own power and self-aggrandizement and their own arrogance, is they can blur the distinction between structures, okay? They can just destroy, right? What does a little child do when he's mad, or he comes in and he just destroys everything? He throws things around and breaks things and messes up his room, and everything just becomes a giant mess. This is turning order back into chaos. And as I've said in previous videos, if the process of turning chaos into order is by definition good, as stated explicitly in Genesis 1, then the process of turning order back into chaos is evil. Okay, sometimes you have to destroy to recreate, but that's all part of the the overall system. If you're destroying because you have a destructive motive in your heart and in your soul, and you want to blur the distinctions, then you're now moving from a state of order to a state of chaos, and that is by definition evil, because it states explicitly in the Torah that moving from chaos to order is by definition, or is good, right? Yehowah said it's good when he did these things. Okay, so how does this all relate? Okay, what we have now is a battle going on between traditional society, which has elements of nationalism. Each nation has its own culture. Each nation is its own race, essentially. Each nation is its own bloodline, and its extended bloodline has its own language, it has its own culture, has its own food, it has its own land, all right? And blurring distinctions, also this progressive, liberal, globalist thought also blurs distinctions between the roles among human beings, okay? So men and women now merge into one. You have women, coming into the workplace and being CEOs, men staying at home raising the kids. I once read this article in an Israeli newspaper where they tried this experiment. These liberal family, they tried this experiment. The woman, right after she gave birth, decided she's going to go to work, and the man is going to stay home and take care of the baby. And they came back after 3 months, and they were just livid. They couldn't. They said they couldn't stand it. The father said he was bored out of his mind, just sitting there changing diapers and coddling the baby and gurgling, watching it gurgle and all this kind of stuff. He said he loves his baby, but he didn't want to spend that many hours just doing this stuff. And the woman said that she felt horrible because she was at work when she felt she needed to be with her baby. She needed to be home. She needed to be taking care of her baby. This is taking care of her baby. This is what happens when you blur distinctions between human beings, when you try to create a blob, right? Like the example I gave before of taking all the different dog breeds, mixing them into one, and now every dog just looks like this, this same breed. Well, when you create, or when you blur distinctions between men and women, between different races, okay, between the African race, the black race, the Asian race, the Jewish race, the European race, all of these have their characteristics. They have their strengths and they have their weaknesses. They have their place in the overall hierarchy and the overall structure of the world. When you blur these distinctions, you create chaos. And all you need to do is look at the United States and see what chaos the blurring of these distinctions has created. The blurring of the distinction and the distinction of the roles of men and women. The blurring of the distinctions between the various races or ethnicities, or I'll call them, race is such a loaded word, and I don't mean it in that way. I mean these extended family clans, these bloodlines. Blurring of the distinction between adults and children, blurring of the distinction between, there's so many other things, right? So the point is that this is all a fight against traditional society. Traditional society has distinctions. Traditional society has roles for men, has roles for women, has roles for adults, has roles for children, has roles for certain, workers, has doing certain tasks, has roles for the identity of gender, which is a big thing, identifying as a man, identifying as a woman, all this kind of stuff. This is traditional society, and traditional society understands that the world is broken up into distinct nations, each with its own extended bloodline, each with its own clan. Oh, I went too far on the highway. All right, I'll have to turn back. I got so into it. Each with its extended clan, and each with its particular characteristics. And the liberals, so-called, I don't even call them liberals, the progressives, so-called, they want to blur all these distinctions. And what they're doing is just creating a giant mess in the world. And they don't care, because they either don't believe in the existence of a creator, or they hate the idea of a creator. They can't stand it. They think the creator is oppressive. They think he's mean. They don't like being a certain role. They want to try something new. They don't like being a boy. They want to try being a girl. They don't want to like being black. They want to try being white. They don't like being Chinese. They want to try being Indian, whatever it may be, okay? The whole thing is a giant mess, and it's evil. It is by definition evil, because you are blurring distinctions. You're turning order back into chaos, okay? So where does this all leave us? In terms of modern politics, there's this argument, fight going on throughout the world of globalism, progressive values, quote unquote, blurring distinctions. And on the other hand, we now have a surge of nationalism, more traditional values, traditional distinctions between various entities, men and women, the different nations, all this kind of stuff. And of course, I believe, and I'm sure you can tell from the lead up to, or everything I've said in the video, that I believe in the second, the more traditional understanding of the way the world should be, with structure, each nation having its own culture, each nation having its own land, each nation having its place in the overall hierarchy. And of course, there's distinction between men and women. I think men should have traditional roles, women should have traditional roles. I think the women should not be in the workplace for the most part. I think they should be back in the home, raising the children, taking care of the house, supporting the husband. You look back in 1950s America, and a husband can work 40 hours a week on a single salary, own a house, 1 or 2 cars, raise 3 to 5 kids, and take a 4-week vacation every year, and the wife did not have to work. So now that all these distinctions have been blurred, and the workforce has been flooded with women, among other entities such as foreign, but we won't even get into that, has been flooded with women. So now, has that made life better? No. Now men and women both need to work 60, 70, 80 hours a week. They can barely afford their rent. They can't really afford 2 cars, let alone even 1 car. Their vacations are now cut back from 4 weeks to maybe they can get 1 week vacation, and they can't even go away on vacation because they don't have enough money. So this has been horrible. When you blur distinctions, when you create chaos, chaos has its consequences. You make a giant mess and everyone suffers. And this has been done by people on purpose who want to destroy the family, who want to destroy the world, who want to destroy the earth. And a lot of people who have been young, immature, inexperienced people in the world have been caught up in the wave and think, oh, I'm going to get freedom, I'm going to get new power, I'm going to be free. Just like Eve tempted Adam with or the snake tempted Eve with the fruit of the tree of knowledge, right? He tried to convince her what great things, how good it was going to be if she just ate from the tree of the fruit of knowledge, and she got duped into it, and she ate, and her whole world was destroyed. Her and Adam's world was destroyed. So we have the same thing. We have naive children, women, men getting duped into this idea that this progressive, liberal, blurring of distinctions, new world is going to be some kind of utopia, and it's becoming more and more clear that it's a complete hell. So I wanted to get in this video to what I think should be done in the United States, in Israel, but it's going to have to wait to the next video because I keep on wanting to set up the background information for this. So I think I'm going to end this video here. Let me just sum up very briefly. We have this battle. We've always had this battle between good and evil, between order and chaos, between distinctions and structures that Yehowah set up in the world, in the universe, and lack of distinctions or lack of structures or alternate structures which are not in tune with the ideas that Yehowah had for this world. And this is the battle going on. This is the ancient battle between good and evil that goes on to this day. Eventually it will end. Eventually good will win. We don't know how we're going to get there, but we know the ending of the story. And all those who go against Yehowah out of their own rebelliousness, out of their own arrogance, out of their own desire to control and dominate others and have money and fame and fortune at the expense of whatever soul they had or have left, they will, if they don't repent. Yehowah is very long-suffering. He gives them ample chance to repent. But if they don't, then they will be destroyed. They will be cut off. And that's what we can take solace in as followers of Yehowah, as Israelites, as lovers of the way that Yehowah has set up the world, of his structure in his world, which we can always support and do our best to enhance and create in his vein even further. So with that message in mind, this has been Chacham Melech Ben Yaakov of Karaite Insights and the World Alliance of Karaim. Hope you enjoyed this short video.